Well, thank you everyone for coming out tonight. Tonight I'm going to be talking about how men and women and how they communicate. There are many differences between men and women. I lost it for the I'm sorry.
What do you mean?
You gotta start. I lost it.
Well, no, I can cut the.
You're just
Okay.
gonna cut that out? Okay.
Yeah.
But I gotta put
She
the.
had them on the table. I came in last night.
I
I was
caught
like,
second.
"Yeah,
Oh, okay.
over there, over here."
You can have them like
It
Can you have
wasn't
them
as bright
prepared?
in here.
I'll start them again, huh?
on the table already or no?
No, I'd rather not.
Some of the barbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keep them too close.
Well, that's actually where they came from, the heads. It came
But
from
that's
the,
I figured.
from the beauty.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think I'm ready now. I'm sorry, guys.
Should we
Just
say
how do you
our number
restart
one?
this?
Oh, we
Here.
don't have
No,
to pan around
she's
now.
got that part.
No,
and
I
then
can
she'll,
step
she'll
Okay.
cut it out, and then she'll just start the time part. Yeah, you guys don't have to do that part again.
Whenever you're ready. Now.
Okay. I don't know why I'm nervous, but I am. Okay, let me take a deep breath. Okay, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you everyone for coming tonight. Tonight we're going to be talking about men and women and how they communicate. Now, men and women are very, very different. We look at the world in very different ways. And the key to understanding those differences is by looking at how men and women communicate. The three things I'm going to talk about tonight are how men and women communicate. I'm going to talk about their brain, their verbal communications. I'm going to talk about their body, which is their body language, nonverbal communications. And then I'm going to talk about their emotions, which is the patterns of their communications. So men and women, why so different? Let's look at the brain first, the verbal communication. The Scientific American did a study at the University of Pennsylvania, and they posted that on the National Academy of Sciences. And what they found out is that the brain has two hemispheres, and they did a study from men and women from the age of 8 to the age of 22, and they looked at the difference of their brain waves within inside the brain. And what they found out was that men communicate from their front to their back of their brain, one side, and then the other side, where women communicate from their left to their right, back and forth. So basically what the science is saying is that women communicate through their whole brain, yet men communicate with half their brain. So ladies, do you ever wonder why when you ask your spouse to take out the garbage, and you've clearly asked him to do that, that he's not understanding? Are you wondering why? Or men, are you wondering why when you're talking to your spouse and they continue to keep talking, why they just don't be quiet and listen to what you're saying? It's because of the way our brains are. This is science. The next thing, in Psychology Today, there was an article that said that women can go ahead and talk 250 words a minute, where men talk 125 words a minute. So on an average day, that means that a woman can talk 25,000 words and a man can talk 12,000 words. Well, that would be, unless you're my darling husband, Doug Norris, which I think we could probably clock him more than 25,000 words a minute. But men and women, why are they so different? Let's go ahead and let's look at their nonverbal, their body language. In Living Strong, Susan Sherwood, who is a PhD in psychology, she said that women's nonverbal communication is through eye contact, through going ahead and smiling, maybe nodding, where men communicate shoulder to shoulder. And I have a picture to illustrate that. Here is how men communicate nonverbally, shoulder to shoulder, where women communicate nonverbally like this. And yes, men, they are still talking. We are still talking, even though it's nonverbal. The next thing we're going to look at is how we communicate by our emotions, patterns. Barton Goldsmith has a PhD in psychotherapy, and this article was in Living Strong. And he says emotionally, women connect by talking. We share our emotions. Men communicate through action. They go ahead and they share their ideas. So women will affirm a conversation by doing a uh-huh or yeah, and a man will confirm a conversation, affirm it, by just sitting there and listening intently. So what happens, ladies and gentlemen, is that us as ladies, we look at the men and they're just standing there staring at us and we're wondering, are they really listening? Aren't they listening to me? And then the men turn around and they look at the women because we're doing uh-huh or yeah. They're looking like, why are they interrupting me? Why don't they just let me talk? But it's chemistry. It's how we're made up. That's how that happens. So in closing, let's go ahead and let's wrap this up. Men and women, why are they so different? Are we really different? So we looked at our brain. Our brain waves are different, and that's how we verbally communicate. We looked at our physical, our body language. It's another way that we communicate, which are polar opposites between men and women. We communicate differently. And then we looked at our emotions. So next time, let me ask you guys this. Next time your man turns around and looks at you while you're multitasking, or maybe the next time, ladies, that your guy doesn't take out the garbage, just remember that we think differently. Our brains, our emotions, and our body language is very, very different. But I want to ask you this, in the scheme of everything, are we really that different? Because truly what we all want is for each other to listen and to care. Thank you for your time. We'll go ahead and we'll take questions and answers now.
I have a question.
Okay, what is your question?
Okay, so like you said that we're not like that different,
Mm-hmm.
but everything you explained was how we're different. So how would we be similar?
We're similar in the fact that we both want the same outcome. We both want men to listen to us as women, and we want women for the men to listen to us, and vice versa. The men want the women to listen to them. So that's how we're basically the same. We're wanting the same thing. It's just that our chemistry is made up differently, where we're not able to communicate that to each other. Are there any other questions?